5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Indie Wrestling Experience, where we discuss all things related to the Indie Wrestling Experience. I am your host, Bob Richards, and this week we've got a bunch of really cool stuff for you, including Ragin Rich Buchholtz is back. He will be talking about all things WWE ID, giving his opinion on the effect it will have on independent wrestling in general, and in particular his promotion and others around him. He's also going to tell a really cool, well, I wouldn't say a really cool story, but a really interesting story about a blind fan getting uh, involved in the action, let's say, during one of his events. It's a really, really interesting story. Luckily, everybody's cool on the back end of that story, but I'll let him tell the rest of it. First, I want to start off today by congratulating the brand new IWTV champion, Marcus Mathers. He won the IWTV title on December 31st, New Year's Eve, from Krule, who held the belt for I think exactly a year, December 31st to December 31st. An excellent champion. That was his second reign with the IWTV championship. And it was an impressive one. I mean, for a guy the IWTV belt isn't defended usually within its own promotion. So Krule was more of a touring champion. But in a year, he defeated, let's take a look at this list here. In the past 12 months as champion, Krule has defeated names like Adam Priest, Suicide, Jack Harrop, Kobayashi, Tyree Taylor, Ichiban, Warhorse, Braden Toon, Colby Carino, Megan Bain, Sam Holloway, Big Ben Bishop, Channing Thomas, and as of August 31st, well, on August 31st at Beyond Wrestling's Never Say Never, he defeated Marcus Mathers. So this match on the 31st was Mathers' rematch. It was a fans bring the weapons match, and I think it went about 25 minutes. Initially, the announcers started this match by highlighting how much Marcus Mathers chokes in these kind of situations, which told me that something might be happening here with a title change. They mentioned how the August match he got beat pretty quickly, I think in about 6 minutes. So Marcus Mathers was clearly the underdog coming into this match. Although the fans were supposed to bring the weapons, they didn't get involved too much. There was a spot where Krule was instructing one of the fans to pull a table out from under the ring for him, which was hilarious. But a lot of the weapons, especially Krule's weapons, came from under the ring. There was a huge chain that he charked Marcus Mathers with. And I'm trying to think the other thing. He grabbed a table. There was another thing he grabbed. Anyway, there was it was a baseball bat with the tacks glued to it. But Marcus Mathers got his shots in for sure. It got kind of bloody when they went back into the ring. Mathers, after taking a beating for several minutes, turns the tide using the briefcase that he won at IWTV 100 to get this shot against Krule. He nails Krule in the head with it, then grabs a gusset plate and starts chopping Krule's chest with it. Each chop, you can see blood starting to pour down Krule's chest. Then Mathers tops it off with one good shot with a gusset plate to the top of Krule's bald head. Now there's blood just pouring off of almost every part of Krule that we can see. It gets onto Marcus Mathers. Mathers licks the blood, then hits an ace crusher on the chair, but Krule kicks out at 2. Krule returns fire, hits a falcon arrow through a table, easy for me to say, for a near fall. And then when he got frustrated, he threw the referee through the door, through a door set up in the corner. Then he grabbed the referee and looked like he was going to snap her neck. Then he started to kind of work her into like a chicken wing or a $1 million dream or something like that, at which point other refs jump in, try to help. Krule ends up outside arguing with all these other refs that are trying to help. Mathers recovers, hits a suicide dive onto the floor through a table. He and Krule go crashing through the table. Mathers gets Krule back in, hits the top rope 450 splash, and we have a new IWTV champion, Marcus Mathers. And let me tell you, um, on the Indie Wrestling Experience rankings, for any of you that have seen them, my monthly promotion rankings, I do top 10 contenders for each individual promotion, and then I do a top 15 overall. But I only include the pool of wrestlers for my top 15 only includes wrestlers who are in a promotion which is already covered. Because the IWTV is more of a traveling championship, it never really crossed my mind. But I should have had Krule probably at the top before, and Marcus Mathers will certainly be at or near the top next month when the rankings come out. But Marcus Mathers was not the only new champion this weekend, maybe the most notable for certain reasons. But there's a list of other folks who deserve recognition that were our and new champions of the week. So let's go down that list. First of all, Black Excellence, Devin Monroe defeated Matt Cardona for the First Wrestling WrestlePalooza title. Congratulations to Devin Monroe. Big Jake Shepard is your new Ascend Pro Wrestling champion after defeating Justin Xavier. The Indie Wrestling Experience women's rankings number 15 overall, the unwilting Tatiana added to her list of accomplishments this week by winning the 880 Wrestling Thursday Night Fights Championship from Nick's Wild. Ray Fury won the Combat Sports Pro Championship in a fatal four-way this week versus Lucha Lacura, Zane Stevens, and Tony Donati. Careless Dynasty won the Death Proof Fight Club Tag Team Championships, defeating Sigma Tau Delta, but Death Proof Fight Club was not done with title changes as their Youngblood Championship changed hands with Josh Sin defeating Sammy Sierra and four others in a six-pack challenge to take the Youngblood Championship. Over in Explosive Pro Wrestling, the Carolina Dreamer Pony Johnson defeated Nick Fury and Tommy Okami in a triple threat match to win the Explosive Pro Championship. That same night, 864 defeated the Closers to win the Explosive Pro Tag Team Championship. At Firestar Pro this week, the Top Shooters won their Tag Team Championship in a match against the Ageless Legacy. At Elite Breakout Wrestling, Aries Alexander won the 187 Breakout Championship from Jacob Prodigy. Battle on the Border Pro Wrestling this week saw 3 title changes at their big show, with Hooks winning the Hardcore title over Jeff King, Avery Hertz winning the Zero Gravity Championship over Justin Xavier, and Craven and Adam Rorges winning the tag team titles from Eric Surge in a 2-on-1 handicap match. Eric Surge's partner, King Bomani, was unavailable for that match, turning it into a 2-on-1 handicap. In Power Slam Pro Wrestling this week, Jimmy Jammer became their Anywhere champion, defeating Drew Starner, TJ Dynamite, and Nolan Bates in a fatal four-way. Gabe XL won the Soar Wrestling Texas Heavyweight Championship, defeating DeAndre Jackson. That would be Gabe XL winning that title back that he lost earlier this year. And on the same show, Daniel Alexandro defeated D'Anthony Price and Roosevelt in a triple threat to win the Soar title. The Daniel Alexandro era of Soar Wrestling has begun. I'm looking forward to how that plays out. Over in DOA Pro Wrestling, a show that I need to sit down and watch, the Dregs won the tag team championships from the Bulletproof Kings. Over in SCW Pro, John Bonhart won the Iowa championship from Corn Boy. Ohio Valley Wrestling had a big event this week, and they saw that event saw two title changes. Super Z won the Ohio Valley Rush title, and Doug Basham, who many of you all may remember from WWE in the 2000s, won the national heavyweight title in a triple threat against EC3 and Cashflow. And Championship Wrestling from Memphis, Diana Taylor picked up the women's title in a six-pack challenge that included C-Rex, Erica Torres, Makari Candy, Nikki XS, and Zaya Wolf. Cody Lane won the Glory Pro out of time. Well, he unified the Glory Pro out of time, Zero Gravity, and Crown of Gravity titles in his match that he won against Jake Parnell. And finally, on our list today, another name you all might know, especially from MLW, Richard Holiday won the ACW Poughkeepsie, won the ACW title at the ACW Poughkeepsie Rumble, defeating Wrecking Ball Legursky. Dylan Bostic won the Emerge Championship again from Paragon. Over in Mondo Lucha, Sierra won the Vanguard title in a triple threat against Warhorse and Red Goldstein. Marty Snow won the Pro Wrestling Legacy Championship in a triple threat that included Stallion, Rogers, and Chaos. But after the match, Pro Wrestling Legacy said the match was unsanctioned and they have vacated the title. More details on that to come. And now, finally, at ACW Wisconsin, another team that's very familiar to the indie wrestling experience as in our top 10 tag teams overall, adding to their list of hardware. They are already the Ragin Pro Wrestling Tag Team Champions, but this past week they won the ACW Wisconsin Tag Team Championships from Hornswoggle and Nick Colucci. After the match, JBL appears, attacks the former champs, and sets up something that's going to happen at the next event. I guess stay tuned. Check out ACW Wisconsin for more about this JBL takeover. Next up, before I get to Rich Buchholtz, I want to start talking about YouTube. And the reason I want to talk about YouTube is because there's a lot of content on YouTube that I think a lot of people don't realize. As wrestling fans, we are conditioned to know about the WWE Network and Peacock. We are conditioned to know about, AEW is now on Max, TNA Plus, Honor Club, the list goes on. As independent wrestling fans, many of us know about Triller Plus or what used to be Fight Plus. We know about IWTV and Title Match Network and things of that nature. But just judging from my scan of YouTube and the shows that are posted on there, I don't think a lot of people know or go to look for stuff that's posted on YouTube. And there are a lot of promotions that post full 2.5, 3 hour events. A lot of them have weekly TV that you can catch. And there's just a lot of great free wrestling on there. So each week I kind of want to highlight, if I've watched something on YouTube this week, that was good, I want to point you in that direction. And this week I want to talk about CCW Alive TV, Coastal Championship Wrestling out of Florida, South Florida. They do run shows in Tennessee, but they've been running for a very long time. They have a weekly TV show, CCW Alive TV. It comes on Tuesdays. I think it's at 7. And the show's usually about a half an hour. It's usually 2 matches, so it's really easy to digest each week. But the matches are always really good, pulled from big shows. And this week's episode happens to be an hour because of the match that's involved. But this isn't just like some rinky-dink, what you might be thinking of a YouTube show. This is, people like Brian Cage, Miro, QT Marshall, Big Boom AJ have been on this show. AJ Francis, the former top dollar in WWE, he had a feud with Cha Cha Charlie that was just brutal, especially at the end. So anyway, they usually pull them from their big live events. This one was no different. This episode that I'm going to cover for you this week, or at least recommend for you this week, is the King of the Territory match. Now, the King of the Territory match is basically CCW's version of a Royal Rumble. 30 men involved every 60 seconds. A new person will enter. The winner gets a CCW title shot at the time of their choosing. The current CCW champion is Meto. The Bulgarian Meto finally ended the long reign of QT Marshall as CCW champion back on October 5th at Bash at the Brew 45 and has been he has been a fighting champion. He's defended the title numerous times in just these 3 months. It's been more than 10 times, I think, in 3 months that he's defended it, which is kind of rare for an independent wrestling champion. So it's very impressive. He's out there every week, sometimes twice, working and maybe defending this title. But the King of the Territory match is going to establish a new contender for that crown. So the question would be, who's it going to be? Um, Obviously, as you know from the Royal Rumble, anybody that's watched a Royal Rumble, lots of storylines intertwine in a Royal Rumble, the most notable of which, leading into this match, have been the rising tensions between longtime friends and teammates Cha Cha Charlie and Jackal Stevens. Those tensions are on full display in this match. I won't say any more than that, but it's certainly something to pay attention to moving forward. Any of you who follow CCW know that since this particular match happened, more things have happened in that relationship, but the tensions are definitely on full display here. In addition, lots of teams find their way to each other and try to pair up to cause damage or to get further in the match. The former CCW Tag Team Champions, The Crown, Maximus and Leonis. The South American Alliance, the current CCW Tag Team Champions, Ariel Levy and Venetius, along with Alan S2S Martinez. ERA and Ricky Martinez, the five-star era, and their issues with Southeastern champion Domino are on display in this match. Ozzy Killmeister, the current Cruiserweight champion, and his tag team partner Skits also find their way to each other in this match and have a lot of fun, it looks like. And the other question, I guess, is going to be, after a big tag team breakup, would former tag teammates Eddie Valentine and Joe Garcia find each other at some point? Would Joe Garcia get his pound of flesh from Eddie Valentine? These are all the things that you need to watch this week when you turn on CCW King of the Territory match. I believe it is episode 1.222. I may be wrong about that, but it's the most recent CCW Alive episode on their YouTube page. I urge you to check it out. Next week, I will have another YouTube recommendation. But for now, it's time for it's time for the return of Ragin Rich Buchholtz.
All right, at this time, let's welcome back to the show Ragin Rich Buchholtz, the promoter of Ragin Pro Wrestling out in Wisconsin. Rich, welcome back.
Glad to be back. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So I can't believe I'm saying this. Okay, I'm lying to you. I am a lawyer, so I can definitely believe I'm saying this, but I didn't expect to go have 2 hours worth of questions for you last time. And somehow we went 2 hours and I wasn't even done. So here we are again with more stuff to talk about. I can't believe we do, but I've always got questions. One of the things I wanted to start with was I wanted to see what the updates were on your 3 upcoming shows. To remind everybody, the 3 upcoming shows for Ragin Pro Wrestling in Wisconsin are Redemption 5, right? Redemption 4.
Redemption 4.
January 25th, headlined with a 2-on-3 handicap match involving Danhausen. What's the update on that show, Rich? We got any new matches to announce tonight or anything like that?
So for that show, the matches will be the following. It'll be Jordy Lee versus Ethan Matthews, Isaiah Moore versus Ben Truss, Missa Kate versus Lily Maurice, Aaron Arsenal versus Shane Hills, Casey Lennox versus Stacy Shadows, Parker versus Garrison Creed, Chucky Bates versus Gary J. And then the main event will be a 2-on-3 handicap match with Brick McCarthy teaming with Danhausen versus Rampage Santana, JDX, and Miguel Almonte.
That's a stacked card. So things have sort of been coming together for the show in the last couple of weeks, I guess.
They have. Everyone should be good to go.
Go ahead.
So. I was just going to say, everyone should be good to go. We haven't had any cancellations as of yet, so that's good.
Right. Now, I know, I think I was trying to write these down as fast as possible because, folks, believe it or not, I had no idea these announcements, there were this many announcements coming. Rich is just on fire making these matches. So these are news to me as well. I tried to write most of them down. Obviously, the one that I want to start with, you described it as Parker versus Garrison Creed. Why don't you tell the folks who Parker is?
So Parker was Harlan on WWE NXT. And then he went to AEW and used his real name of Parker. Don't know how to pronounce his last name really well, so I don't want to butcher it.
I'm going to take a shot just so our fans know that's Parker Boudreaux or Parker, something like that, right?
Something like that, yeah.
He's the guy that, to me at least, I know as the guy we all thought was the next Brock Lesnar.
And that's what they built him as in WWE.
Yeah, and it's because of that look. I mean, he looks like he could be Brock Lesnar's kid. There's no doubt about that.
100%.
You think that put too much pressure on him early in his career?
I think it did a little bit because I think they kind of put him in like a manager role, and I think it kind of made him like uncomfortable. Would be my guess. I never talked to him about it, but that'd be my guess.
Now, speaking of talking to him, what is the lead up on Parker? Did Parker reach out to you guys? Did you guys reach out to him?
He actually reached out to us. So like I think he was trying to get booked in different places last year, and I told him I'm like I can try and get you in next year. Like pretty much depending on who it is, we have a line of about 300 people that are still on a waiting list to work for RPW.
You have a
So
waiting list.
we do.
Wow.
Anywhere from Maine all the way to California.
How, maybe this is going a little bit too inside, but when I think of a waiting list, like when I was waiting for season tickets, they just move them up one by one. Is that how you do this waiting list? There's a little bit more nuance than that.
It's a little more nuanced. It depends on who it is. If it's somebody I'm not sure who they are, obviously I'm not gonna like move them up right away. If it's somebody that I think will draw, they're gonna jump right out the bat. And I'm gonna
Right.
try and bring them an ASAP. Like a lot of stuff that we do for RPW is based on how I think the crowd's gonna react to it.
Right. So it's not a first come, first serve. It's really I will put you in the queue exactly where I think exactly how beneficial I think you will be to Rage and Pro Wrestling and our fans.
Correct.
Yeah. So Parker reaches out. Does he jump pretty high on that list?
He did. It was based on a lot of it was based on his following. And I look at connections as far as who he's connected to, if that can branch off to sponsorships potentially, all that stuff.
Talk about that a little bit more. Like, what is your thought process when you see a guy? We'll just stick with Parker, but when you see a guy and you're thinking how he might fit into sponsorships, what is the thought process there?
It's pretty much just who do they all interact with? How can we market him differently than somebody else may have marketed them? How do we just build our brand? Because like he's got 1.2 million followers, so like anytime we post a story of him and he shares it, that's huge for us.
Right. What is it about? Let's just stick with Parker here and talk about it as much as you want. But what is it about Parker? How do you go about making sure Parker Boudreaux fits in to your deal and you fit into his?
We pretty much gave him 2 different matches, and we just want to see like how people respond to him. He's got a meet and greet for both shows. He's been nothing but professional. He's very adamant about working for us, and that's really a good thing when you see 1.2 million followers. That somebody that really reaches out and tries to help brand your promotion.
Right. And you said a second ago, both shows. We're talking about Redemption. Is he booked for another show after that?
He is. He's booked for WPAC on May 31st.
That's Homecoming.
Correct.
Very cool. And this match, this Redemption match wait. Let me ask you this: is there a match you're ready to announce for Parker for May 31st?
Yes, we did announce it. He's facing Easy Orlandi out of Illinois, where he's faced some names such as like AJ Francis from TNA.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's pretty well known in Illinois. I believe he works for Freelance and a couple other ones, Second Wrestling, I want to say.
Mm-hmm. So that's going to be his opponent on May 31st.
Correct. Yep.
Now, him with wrestling Garrison Creed at Redemption on January 25th. How do you see that matchup? What makes you think that he and Garrison Creed will be good together in the ring?
I did a lot based on just the hero versus anti-hero. Very similar to Zilla Ken. It's just a matter of we don't force our crowd's hand. Garrison Creed is technically the local guy, but Garrison Creed's worked for OVW and I'm trying to think where else. OVW for sure, and then I think he worked maybe NWA. So like he's got his name out there. And like our goal is just to build them both as best as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and like I said, I've seen Garrison. I saw Garrison at your shows a couple of times, and I think he's a great performer. When I saw this match, I thought they would really do well in the ring together. It was just a first glance, but I mean, obviously, I have no more expertise than that, so I'm certainly looking forward to it. I guess the fans are. Has there been a fan response to that match?
It's been pretty good. Garrison Creed does a phenomenal job of plugging our shows. Like he advertises our shows at least once a week, so it's been very cool.
Very
There's
cool.
a part of me that wishes that we had more shows because he's very good at marketing and he's very good in the ring. It's just a matter of a lot of our shows have 18 to 22 people, and there's times where people get left off. It is what it is.
No, absolutely. Like I said, I went through one of your shows where there were 10 matches full, just jam packed full of guys. So I can imagine it.
Yeah.
The Missa Kate match, I think you said it was going to be Missa Kate versus Lily Ruiz at
Correct.
Redemption.
Yep.
And Lily, I saw out in Wisconsin in November at your show. Had she worked for you before?
She is not. That was the first time she ever worked for me.
For lack of a better phrase, did she earn her comeback, or were you always planning on bringing Lily back?
We were planning on bringing her back. We just didn't know when. It worked out that she was able to do the January show. There was like an open void there, so I wanted to use it while I could. A lot of our stuff's based on just puzzle pieces, wherever it fits. Like I don't go too in depth with storylines because we're running 3 to 5 shows a year. People forget stuff. It is what it is.
Right. I'm sitting here looking at my notes as I was trying to write these down, and they're getting way harder to read over time. I see Jordy Lee versus Ethan Matthews. I don't think I've seen Jordy Lee, but I know he's performed for you a few times before.
He is not.
He's not. Sorry.
He is not. Nope. He works in Green Bay for HWE. Good guy. It'll be a really good match.
Yeah, and Ethan is a guy, and I know he's performed for you because I've covered him a couple of times.
Yep.
Is Ethan what you might describe as sort of an RPW mainstay? Is he sort of one of your guys?
He is.
I think all his matches have been really fun to watch, so I look forward to seeing him rise too. Again, like I said, my notes are terrible. What was the Shane Hills match?
Shane Hills is facing Aaron Arsenal. Aaron Arsenal has wrestled for us before. He did more tag matches than anything else for RPW. He was a tag team partner with Perfection. They were called Perfect Arsenal.
Oh, cool. How long ago was that?
2021 and then 2022 early.
Okay. And Shane obviously has been around for you guys for a long. He's just been around for a very long time, but with you guys most of the time, right?
Yep. Shane used to be a part owner with me, Mike Mercury, and Rob Norwood. We used to, all 4 of us co-owned Mercury One Wrestling. So
Right,
I've known Shane for many years.
Oh, yeah, right, absolutely. Again, I'm trying to read a match after that. After the Shane Hills match, you said
Casey Lennox versus Stacey Shadows.
Wow, these are terrible handwriting, Bob. We talked about the Casey Lennox Stacey Shadows match a little bit last time, and then what was there's one you said the Jordy Lee Ethan Matthews match, and then what was the match you said after that?
The Parker one's after Casey and Stacey, and then Chucky Bates and Gary J.
That Gary J. Have either one of these guys worked for you before?
Gary J has worked for me twice. Gary J is out of St. Louis. I believe Gary J's done stuff for GCW.
Okay. What about Chucky?
Chucky is out of Milwaukee. He's very well known in the Milwaukee area. He has a pretty good following, so it should be a very entertaining match. Their styles are very similar.
Right. Yeah, like I said, I don't know anything about either one of those guys, but I am going to, and I would urge anybody else listening to take a look at any of these names that you may not have heard before, as I always urge you to do, because this is where you find the nuggets of gold. This is where you see these guys before they're on TV, and you can't get to them without standing in a line for 20 minutes. This is where you get to see these guys really become who they're going to be. And to me, that's the most exciting part about these shows is seeing these guys progress and develop into future superstars, right?
100%. Like, we kind of build ourselves as like the AAA. We want our talent to get signed by Impact. We want our talent to get looks from WWE and AEW. Like, if they can't make another show, that's probably not the worst thing. It's bad for our crowd, but it's good for them. We're putting our talent above our promotion, and that's not a common thread in wrestling in general.
Right. You want to help these people get where they're going.
Correct.
You don't want to hold them up. You want to make them better.
We want to be the stepping stone, which that was my goal going in. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, it's great to have them there, but I want to see them succeed also.
Absolutely. Excuse me. So we talked about Homecoming a little bit, and we talked about the Parker Boudreaux match. When we were here last time, you told me there would be a Brick McCarthy title match, and then we would also see Zilla Fought 2 versus JDX. And then I think there was the cage match with former tag team partners Salem Crane and Nick Colucci. That's at Homecoming as well, right?
Yep.
What have you got anything else announced or booked for that?
That show is pretty well set. It's Casey versus Stacy in a steel cage. It just depends on whoever wins for January 25th. And then we have a fatal four-way of Johnny CK, Ethan Matthews, Miguel Almonte, and Isaiah Moore. And then we have Royal Flava versus Jordan Cross and Ryan Cross, Gen Z, and the Baker Boys. So 2 fatal four-ways at the moment, 1 singles match and 1 tag.
So it's Royal Flava versus the Crosses, Gen Z, and whom?
And then Baker Boys. They worked for me last year.
Oh, right. So this is going to be a fatal four-way for the tag titles.
Yep.
Okay. Are you done with the list?
Yep, that's all the list. Because you named the other one.
Right. So we've talked about Casey. I think we even talked about last time that Casey and Stacy would be in a steel cage in May, regardless of the outcome of the redemption match. Couple of people in this other match: Johnny CK, Ethan Matthews, Isaiah Moore. Who did I miss?
And Miguel Almonte.
Miguel Almonte, who's going to be in the 2-on-3 handicap tag team match at Redemption that involves Danhausen, right?
Yep.
Is there a stipulate? I mean, I know this is a fatal four-way. Are there stakes? Is there a title or any kind of bragging rights on the line for this match, or is it just going to be the 4 of them going?
It all depends on what happens on the 25th.
Fair enough. Then we will stay tuned for how that lays out. I'm interested to see Miguel Almonte in the ring just because I saw him causing so much trouble during the JDX title match at Envision. I think he's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I've seen Johnny CK at Ragin before, but I don't think I've seen him anywhere else. Is he another one of your guys, one of your regular contributors?
He's a regular. We try to get him on like probably 2 to 3 shows a year. So I mean, right now, like I said, there's so many people that want to work for us. It's very hard to give spots, like 100% spots, like with a 300 people waiting list. It's kind of hard to do with 20. It's kind of hard to do with maybe at the most 20 spots a show,
Right.
Not counting the refs and like announcers and stuff.
Right. And now I'm remembering you said the other match I was trying to write down my notes was Isaiah Moore is going to be defending that cruiserweight title at Redemption, right?
Yes, that's against Ben Trust.
Ben Trust. That's who I was going to ask. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
You're good. So Ben Trust is from St. Louis, Missouri as well. He worked for us last March for Art PW Extravaganza. And he's good. He's really good. He's got quite the following. He works for GLCW regularly now. He's got a cool gimmick. So It'll be,
GLCW, is that Great Lakes Championship Wrestling?
it is. They have a huge show once a year called Blizzard Brawl that brings in a lot of people. Like they draw probably 1,500 people for that show.
I feel like I saw, this is totally random, but I feel like I saw, like I feel like they just had that show.
They did.
And I feel like I saw Marty Jannetty at it recently. I don't know why that's so random, but I feel like I saw a picture of Marty Jannetty at that show.
You did.
Wait, were you at that show?
I was not.
Oh, okay.
I was not, but like I'm really good friends with Ultimate Wrestling Trivia, and they have a table at that show.
Okay.
So like I know pretty much everybody that's out there. Dave was actually at our show for the Zilla show. So
really?
Dave Hero's the one that runs it. You probably know his son is Kale Hero.
Mm-hmm.
So Dave is his dad.
Has Cal worked for you?
He was supposed to. He has not yet though. He was supposed to my first ever show.
Oh, okay. What was the other thing I was going to mark about? Oh, I wanted to ask one question about Johnny CK, and then I'm going to move on to this Fatal 4-Way tag match. But is that Pikachu?
I believe so. I believe so. Your guess is as good as mine. I know he has something in his that he carries. I don't know what it actually is. I don't really follow the comic stuff, so I'm not positive.
Right. Yeah, I know it's his friend, and he's always with him. I was always afraid to call him Pikachu because I'm too old for Pokemon, I would say, and my kids would probably make fun of me. But that's what I always thought it was. I think it's a cute gimmick.
It's a funny gimmick. It definitely gets over with certain people. So
no, absolutely. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Takahashi in New Japan. I'm trying to think. It was that stuffed animal he carries, Daryl.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where we let our talent come up with their own gimmicks, and it just makes us so much better because they're more fluent then. They're not being force fed.
Right.
Where like if you get to the big time, the WWE AEW, they're trying to change you to whatever they want. Like the best example I can think of would be Karrion Kross. When they brought him up to the main roster, his gimmick changed 100%, and being 100% candidate was awful.
No, I agree with you. He's never. I don't think he's been the same since they changed that gimmick because the NXT gimmick was over.
Oh, it was phenomenal.
And the Killer Cross gimmick before that, in Impact and everywhere else, was over.
Mm-hmm.
But this, even the faction that he's got now with the Authors of Pain and Scarlet and Paul Ellering is just, it hasn't leveled up.
It's not what it was like, and that's the thing that I don't like because like I'm a big believer in NXT does everything to get them to succeed, and then they bring them up to Raw or SmackDown and they kind of micromanage them, and it can kill their character instantly.
Yeah, that's actually interesting, and I don't want to go too far into this. Maybe we could have another conversation about this another day, or maybe it'll come up again later. But as far as NXT is concerned, so the wrap on what we used to call NXT Black and Gold.
Yep.
The idea seemed to be, or the struggle seemed to be, that Triple H and William Regal had visions for these guys, and then they would go to the main roster where Vince McMahon hadn't seen them, and he tried to mold them into his own image rather than connect to the character that was in NXT or anything else. What I'm leading to, I guess, is then they did NXT 2.0, which seemed a little more gimmicky. It seemed a little bit more main stage cartoony. But was it a good idea insofar as that it synergized the transition from NXT to the main roster, you think?
It depends on the person would be the best way I could say it, because like some of the people, they came up right away and you could tell they were trying to build them, and then others, they built them for one match and they were a jobber the rest of the time, which isn't fair to a lot of them. Like, it's a paycheck, but it's not really fair to them.
Right, absolutely. Moving back to Homecoming, this Fatal 4-Way tag team match. Did I see, did Gen Z not have a match or a title defense at least scheduled for Redemption?
They do not. It just comes down to we don't have enough spots on the show, so we gave them the night off.
And that's why you were confident and okay to say that May 31st, this will definitely be a title match because they're not losing the title before that.
Correct.
I saw Royal Flavor in Wisconsin when I was out there in November with you. We talked about them the last time. These other two tag teams I don't know too much about, the Crosses and the Baker Boys. Start with Jordy Cross and Ryan Cross. Tell me about them.
So Jordan and Ryan Cross are father and son. Ryan is a dad. Jordan is a son. Ryan has his own company down in Kenosha. He does a phenomenal job bringing in people. Um, it's one of those things where Jordan tries to get on a lot of our shows. Like it comes down to availability. Like he's he's been on AEW a couple times for guest spots with like I believe he was with Billy Gunn and them for a spot that they did in Chicago because like they call up a lot of people to do extra work, which it works out. Like get the exposure while you can.
Right. And then the Baker Boys?
Baker Boys are more local. They've been, I think, around 2 or 3 years. Uh, they have a really cool gimmick where their dad is actually their manager. His name's Papa Baker.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a cool gimmick. They're bigger. They're very physical. They were at our show last November. They're more brawlish. So like they'll try and take matches to the outside of the ring and kind of be more the Stone Cold style.
Absolutely. And I know we talked about Royal Flavor quite a bit, actually. We spotlighted them a little bit in the last interview. But speaking of this trajectory upwards of NXT and WWE and all this big time, do you get the sense that Royal Flavor, I mean, even after they've just performed for you the once, but you met them, you talked to them, you saw them perform, do you feel like they've got a trajectory upward?
They do. They definitely do.
Yeah, that's sitting there talking about watching them. I thought the same thing, but I'm sorry.
They were trained by Ken, and Ken is very well known for getting people up quick. Like he's got a laundry list of people that have been signed by WWE or at least had tryouts for matches, and then people that work for AEW currently. Julia Hart was trained by him for a little bit. She was trained during COVID though, so her was partly trained, but he trained Top Flight. There's a bunch of them. The Olympian guy, Gabe Stevenson, he trained. So there's been a bunch of people that can train that made it already.
Yeah, I actually saw the list. There's the website for the school. It's not coming to me right now. Do you know the name of the school off the top of your head?
The Academy.
It's the Academy. Yeah, it's like the Academy and then School of Professional Wrestling or something like that. I looked on the website the other day. They've got a list of their graduates, their big time graduates on the site. I urge anybody interested to take a look at that list because, as Rich said, it's very impressive. Just the handful of names he mentioned doesn't even come close. There's a lineage of wrestlers who have made it to the big time, and you can see their photos right there on the page showing Ken Anderson's success. And that's something that's going to lead us into. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but the schools and how they get people ready for success and how that plays into this new WWE ID program. Again, we'll get into that a little bit more in a little while, but I got to imagine Ken's school is on their radar.
I would think so. He wasn't on the list, which I was a little surprised by, but like I would think that they'd be looking at it for sure.
Yeah. And then so Destiny, it's funny, we're talking about these shows that are coming up for you, and we're talking about them in order of the way that they're coming at us. But Destiny in September 27th, 2025, seems to be the big show right now. I mean, it seems to be selling tickets. It seems to have a lot of space on your social media. This could be a big show.
It is. It's been way different for me. Like I've never had to deal with a contract before. I decided a 10-page contract to get the building. The Champion Center in Appleton is a building that cost $36 million to build. So like it's a huge deal that we're there. Like most places you're running are like armories, sports bars, stuff like that. Like this building is a building that has hockey and basketball in the arena, and they're two different arenas in the same building.
When you say it's a big deal that you're there, In what sense? Like, did you overcome competitors? Was it a lot of money? Were there a lot of restrictions you had to overcome? What's the big deal in getting you across the finish line into that venue?
So I reached out to them basically because I didn't hear back from a different venue, and I was like, well, I'll take a shot at it. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. They were intrigued. They called me. I met them 25 minutes later because I live 4 miles from the venue, and they're like, yeah, we could probably make this work. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. Got our deposit. They get a deal with the tickets. Um, we have sponsorship where we split it if they get the sponsor. So I mean, it's a lot of different elements that I wouldn't have elsewhere.
In,
So,
insurance elements as well?
oh yeah, I have to have two different insurance policies. One's $1 million for occurrences, and one is $2 million for incidentals and damages to the building and some other stuff.
Is that a policy that now I know nothing about. I mean, I deal with a lot of insurance during my shoot job, but I don't know a lot about how it plays into wrestling. Is that something where that's a policy that you're going to have and then sort of shut down after you're done with the event, or is that something you're going to keep open and continue to try to run that building?
I will get it as long as I'm in the building. We'll just go on record to say if I wasn't there, I wouldn't go for the headache.
If you weren't there, meaning if you weren't local?
No, if I wasn't like at a building like that, like if it was like a regular armory or sports bar, I would never go through all the headache.
Oh, right. But this building, you said is state of the art.
Correct.
Um, so that's really cool. And getting that insurance, those two insurance policies, does that cost you a good little bit of money?
I don't know the exact cost yet. We have till like a month before it has to be done, but I pretty much my cousin's actually a agent, so he's gonna get it done for me.
Mm-hmm.
I benefited that way, but like I'm guessing it's gonna be about $800.
Wow.
He
And I
told me
think
450, but we'll go with the higher end.
right, right. But I think you told me you've got the ability to possibly sell a ton of tickets for this show because there's so much space plus bleachers, right?
Yes. So pretty much what we're doing is we're doing 3 rows on the floor level, and then they have bleachers they can bring out, and then they also have bleachers up top where they're built-in seats, but it'd be like the bleacher style.
Right. So what do you think? What's your ceiling here as far as people that you think or you could fit into this building for this show?
We could probably fit in probably 1,000 people.
Wow.
I mean, the building says it fits 800. I mean, we could do more if we wanted to add seats, but I'm trying not to put too many people on the floor for safety reasons and for insurance reasons.
Right. No, absolutely. And if you had 1,000 fans in that building, would that be your biggest show of all time?
Oh yeah, by far.
If you had to estimate right now, what would you say your current record holder is as far as attendance?
I believe our biggest one was Destiny 3 with Tessa versus Diamante versus Kiera Hogan.
Mm-hmm. That was just that was the end of 23, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, because I remember you were promoting that when I was out there the first time in I think April of 23.
Yep.
And we talked about that match last time, but it's still one I would like to see if they ever run it back. Um, so as far as these three shows, how are ticket sales?
Ticket sales are going pretty good. The January one's a little slower than I want, but a lot of it's based on the weather. Like we're in Wisconsin, it's cold, it snows, people wait. Like that's just the reality of the situation.
Right.
But like
And
I think we have 6 tickets, 6 second row seats left, and 1 front row seat left for that show. Otherwise, it's all GA.
mhm.
And then I want to say Wapaka probably has 25 left for between the first and second row, and then GA, and then Appleton should have 24 second row. Front row is 100% sold out, and then 44 for third row, and then GA.
Wow. You guys are doing well for all three of these shows, really. This far in advance.
Yeah, we're doing good. Like, I've always been a person that wants to promote in advance. Like, you never want to do the whole wait and see if they show up logic, because there's so many different things you can do. And if you're waiting on that ticket at the door, it's probably not going to happen.
Right.
So like we'll eat the $10 per ticket to get the guaranteed ticket sales.
Right. Absolutely. You were talking, before we've been talking about this Destiny show and setting up the insurance and all the other hoops you have to jump through for this. You've never had to get an insurance policy for another venue?
I had to for the watering hole originally, but it was never that complex.
Sort of more of a CYA kind of thing than anything else.
I believe so. I don't know the wording, but yeah, I believe so.
So I just mean cover your ass.
Yeah.
Kind of just like a basic it was sort of a blanket sort of thing to sort of just get you across into the show. It wasn't as detailed or as
correct
than this Destiny deal.
We didn't have an LLC originally. We have an LLC now, and they're like, yeah, that doesn't cover it. I'm like, okay.
Excuse me. So as far as that's concerned, I know I've been wanting to come back to this. I wanted to come back to it the last time we spoke. Because again, as an insurance lawyer, I mean, it's, this is near and dear to my heart. But you started to tell me a story at the show in November when I was out there and we did our quick little interview on the balcony. And you started to tell me about an incident with a fan who had been injured at one of your shows. Not because I'm looking to revel in the misfortune, but because it sounds like a really interesting story. What show was this? When did this happen?
So it happened at Homecoming 2 in Wapaka on June 1st of this year.
Was that at Big Apple too?
No, that was
Wapaka, sorry.
It was Wapaka, yeah. So I was actually reffing the match when it happened. So you can kind of guess how I was feeling in the ring. Like, I'm thinking, this could be really, really bad for my budget.
Yeah.
But pretty much what happened was there was a spot outside the ring where Heather Reckless threw Casey into the crowd, and she told the crowd to move, but like they fended for themselves, and the blind person can't see; she can only hear them. And so like she was caught in the crossfire because the people kind of left her. And what ended up happening was, I find out later on that the blind person was actually, I want to say, an aunt to my actual shoot job owner. So I get to hear about it constantly.
Oh my goodness gracious! So I think you said before. So did she get hit with a chair? This lady?
No, like what happened was she was sitting on her chair and Casey was thrown into her.
Oh, so Casey hit her.
Yeah, Casey hit her.
Okay,
go on.
No, I was gonna say, what happened with this woman afterwards? So you're in the ring, you're refereeing this match, and obviously because of where it happened, the action had obviously spilled outside. Both these women are outside. Are you outside with them, or are you in the ring counting them out?
I believe I was in the ring counting them out. I'd have to watch it back, but I'm pretty sure I was in the ring.
When this happens, you said just a minute ago, I think to myself, this is going to be expensive.
Uh-huh.
What do you do? Obviously, you're going to finish refereeing the match, and then you're going to go deal with that. When you have that opportunity, the match is over, and you can run to the back and start figuring things out. What does that process look like? Do you go right to this woman? Do you figure things out in the back?
I went right to the woman, shortly, probably 10 minutes after the match. A lot of times I'm wearing something different where people don't know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much I'm legally blind without my glasses. I can't see without them. I'm very nearsighted where I can read a TV if it's really close to me and figure out what's on the TV. But if I don't have my glasses, I can't see real well.
Mm-hmm.
So me in the ring without glasses is quite entertaining.
So is this woman angry when you go up to her? Is she sort of understanding the situation and
She's
embarrassed?
she's more startled because they weren't wrestling fans, and that's what I had to explain to Casey and Heather. I'm like, you got to remember that some of these people aren't wrestling fans. So like doing these spots by the crowd is very dangerous. They're going out for an entertaining night. They don't know to move out of the way when you're doing spots. So it's just one of those slippery slopes.
Absolutely. Now, did that end up becoming any kind of legal
It
issue
did not.
for you guys?
It did not. They joke around with me about it, but I've seen them since. Like they came in to visit at the bar. I want to say early November, and still joke around about it.
That's good.
So like it was kind of a feel good story. They were there because we did a thing for my boss's brother is terminally ill, so he got to walk Ken to the ring, and that's what they were there for. So like they weren't even wrestling fans; they were there for him.
Oh, wow.
So
Well, it's good they have such a good sense of humor about it.
Yeah, they were very nice. Like I said, I think she's more startled than anything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that makes sense. So we hinted at this earlier. I am running long again, it being long-winded again, I guess, but we did talk about this earlier about the WWE ID program. And I kind of wanted to spend a few minutes talking about this because, especially since early in this interview, you said you looked to position yourself as like the AAA affiliate, the stepping stone to the big leagues, all of these things. So I feel like the WWE ID program is something that is going to be it's going to have an impact on your life for sure. For those who don't know, actually, I don't really know because I don't think there's a ton of details out there about the very specific sort of granular details about what this program entails. But my understanding from reading online and things like that is that WWE is essentially identifying or IDing these independent wrestlers. I got a list of them here. I think it's 15 or 20 of them so far. They're not signed. There's no contract. They are ID'd. They are given financial assistance as they work their way through the indies. They're given access to training and assistance with their getting better in the ring. They are not restricted from taking independent bookings. And the last reports I've seen is that there's no sort of booking issues with the creative for these people, insofar as I don't think that there's been any restrictions placed on the ID talent as to, you can't do a job, you can't take a pin, or you can't be made to look bad in any certain way. As I'm sort of laying out what I know about it, does that sound right to you? Is that your understanding of how this is sort of playing out?
as far as I know, like I think it may tie into there's going to be a program they're going to be doing in California that's going to be Booker T is going to be one of the trainers, as far as I was told. And I think that could be tied into it. I think it's going to be like kind of a relaunch of Tough Enough. But I think that's what's going to happen. I'm not positive though.
I think I did hear something about that. Yeah.
I don't know a lot of people that have been ID'd. Like I see it, but like I get hit up by so many different people that I couldn't tell you who has and who hasn't. I know Kylie Ray is one of the locals that got ID'd.
Mm-hmm.
She's based out of Chicago. She worked for AEW. So she's really good.
Yeah, I actually want to. I got this list in front of me, at least the list that I've seen that's good through ID and through November. I don't know if they've ID'd more since then. Okay, and the names that jumped out to me, I'm not going to go through the entire list of people. It does seem to be sort of East Coast focused as far as the talent they've chosen so far. But one name that stood out to me, who I know performs at least in Michigan, who might be on your radar, is Freedom Ramsey. Have you had any contact with him?
I have not. I don't. Where is he out of for Michigan? Do you know?
I know that he was scheduled to be at a Championship International Wrestling show near where my daughters live. We were in Tecumseh. That would have been it would have been in that southeast area, sort of a little past Adrian and Tecumseh, if you're familiar with that area.
Is it near Detroit or no?
It would be probably an hour, I would say maybe an hour and a half southwest of Detroit, the city.
Okay,
Do you know Jack Cartwheel?
I do not.
Okay. And the other one I wanted to know, because I know she's performed for promotions out there in sort of the Chicago area at least, is another female talent, Zeta Steele. Do you have any contact with her?
I know of her. I've never contacted her, but I definitely know of her.
Okay. And the schools that I saw ID'd are 4 of them. I saw Seth Rollins' school, which is in Iowa.
Yep.
Cody's school, which is in Georgia.
Yep.
Booker T's school for Reality of Wrestling, which is in Texas.
Yep.
And Rikishi's school, which I feel like I saw that was in Chicago, but I might be wrong about that.
Oh, that's in California.
California. Okay. So Rikishi's is in California. Those are the 4 schools. You mentioned a minute ago, you thought Ken Anderson's school would be on that list. Maybe it will be at some point. But obviously, these are schools run by people who are already very clearly associated with WWE and have a long history with them. Ken being one of those guys, which is why you would expect him to be on that list.
Mm-hmm.
My first question to you, I guess, is, and I know you don't run a wrestling school, but what do you think these other promoters who run schools who have absolutely zero ties to WWE, are they concerned right now? Are you concerned?
I'm not concerned because I don't run a school, but I'm guessing places that have a school are very concerned because it's kind of like the college logic of the transfer portal. These people are going to go wherever they think that they can possibly jump to WWE or AEW as quick as possible. We're not in the world of wait and see if we get signed here or there. They're going to go for the top tier schools. Like we get hit up a lot from Devon's school because Casey came from there. So I thought Devon's school was on there too, but I could be wrong.
It's possible. Like I said, I'm looking at this list that ends, all the dates end in November, so I may not have some stuff that happened in December.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, those guys, like you said, Devon, Ken Anderson, those are guys who, because of their association, you would expect to at least be considered for this, especially knowing Ken's school has put out so many great performers.
Mm-hmm.
But I know this is a very overarching question. I see this as, I mean, sure, there are a lot of positive aspects to it, but I see this as another opportunity by WWE to try to monopolize the market. I feel like this is another counter move to AEW, which I don't particularly think of as very close competition to WWE. They're clearly number 2, but I don't think that they're in the range where they are competing with WWE on a level like this, or to where WWE would be shaking in their boots. But this feels like WWE is trying again to do whatever they can to lock up talent in advance to keep them from AEW. Do you agree with that?
I would agree 100% with that logic. It's a matter of they know that AEW a lot of times will do 4 to 5 year contracts, and they don't want to take the risk of losing on a certain individual. Like, I'll give you the example of Britt Baker did several stuff for WWE where they'd bring her for dark matches, didn't really think she was going to amount to much. AEW used her and she was a star during COVID and a little after.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on what they're looking for at that moment.
I mean, this also does sort of feel like not only is WWE trying to keep talent away from AEW, but it feels like they're almost stealing their idea. I mean, to me, it seems like AEW Dark and what they've been doing with Ring of Honor almost sort of set the table for this, because AEW's been trying to funnel talent into their promotion through Dark and through Ring of Honor for 3 or 4 years.
Yep, they have.
But WWE comes along, they create this program and financial incentives for these people that last longer than just a one-off appearance on Dark. So it's almost like they've taken that AEW model and tightened it up and made it better.
I would definitely agree. It's kind of very similar to the college transfer portal and just paying athletes. It's kind of the same logic.
Yeah, and it also, in a sense, the transfer portal and the NIL deals are very similar to all of this in the sense that, when you sign an NIL deal, you are not locked into working for WWE or whoever is signing your NIL deal. You're not locked into doing any of these things necessarily. Um, and so that's kind of that's why these kids are switching schools back, because they're not locked into anything. And so they go wherever the best opportunity is for them.
Mhm.
Do you feel like these WWID talent, the ones that have been ID'd so far, the ones that will be ID'd, do you think they're going to feel restricted in any kind of way? I mean, I know we're hearing that there's no restrictions on their booking. They can do jobs, blah, blah, blah. But do you feel like even with that said, these talent are going to be looking to they're looking to restrict themselves or keep themselves close to the
It,
vest so they can figure out what WWE wants and not do anything they don't want?
it's one of those things where I think they're willing to do certain things for certain companies, but it depends on the circumstance. You're not going to bring them in to do a job for a random person. They're not going to want to do it, and WWE will freak out about it, which
Mhm.
they should, because at the end of the day, they want their people to look the best that they possibly can. And like, I guess it all comes down to like, are you doing a storyline or are you doing a one-off? Like, it just depends on how your promotion's running it.
Right. Now, as a promoter, I jumped the gun earlier asking this question, but now I'm back to it. You, as a promoter who doesn't have a wrestling school, but does look at himself as running a promotion that is the last stepping stone, AAA to the major leagues. Is this going to affect, let's start with this. Is this going to affect the way that you interact and communicate or think about the talent you're going to bring in the first place?
Yeah, it is. Like, if we have a connection with them beforehand, I would say it wouldn't be an issue. If it's somebody that we're reaching out to because of WWEID, then it could be a little bit of a hiccup because of the fact of more than likely they're going to want more money than they would have before. So that could be an issue just based on budgeting.
Right. Would you have any fear in booking them as far as the creative or
Probably not
apprehensions?
because we're not very in depth with a lot of stuff where that's why most places or sorry, most talent love us is because we don't like shove ideas down their throat. We're more about how does this help you in the long run? How does
Mhm.
this make you get other bookings or get dark matches for AEW or WWE or whatever the case may be or Impact? There's so much untapped potential for so many people, and it's a matter of when people go up and when people go down, you've got to just be even keel because every day is a different day and people come, people go. You don't want to ever get too high or get too low on yourself.
Right. Um, do you think I saw someone say somewhere that they think that this deal could be really beneficial for the limited amount of people, wrestlers, I guess, in the business right now, whose sole goal from day one has been WWE or bust. But what about the rest of the folks who are a little more open, who want to get signed with AEW or Impact or wherever else, and they're not like I think of Stephanie Buccaire who does this big event match for AEW. That gets her on the map. WWE sees her. She's dreamt of being there since she was a child. She makes the jump. It's all she's ever wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the guys who it's not all they've ever wanted, who are more open? Like, do you think it's gonna hurt them? Do you think WWE's not gonna look at them as strongly because they're not maybe WWE pom-pom waivers, or they're not giving them the impression that that's all they want out of life? Is that gonna hurt those kind of talents?
Different than it is now. Like, I look at just the women's part back when Vince was in charge, like it was more diva oriented,
Mhm.
where now it's more physical matches, and people like are getting in there to actually have really good matches. It's not the 5 minute bathroom breaks that they used to call it. Like the matches now are actually really good.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I guess I just had one other question on my notes here that I should have probably asked earlier, but I skipped over. And when we were talking about the wrestling schools, um, I got to imagine that if this program is successful, the WWE is going to expand and add more schools. They're going to add more talent over the years. If this goes well for them, do you think that the promotions in the local areas, and let's just say any promotion who's in a state with a WWE ID school, are they concerned about suffering right now? Because
Oh,
the big,
I definitely think they are, because it goes down to they're gonna worry that that all the cream of the crop is gonna go to try and get leverage and go to these other places.
Mhm.
Like we get hit up by Seth Rollins School all the time. Heather Reckless is a graduate from Seth Rollins School. Maggie Lee is a graduate from Seth Rollins School. Blair Onyx, and there's a laundry list of people that I'm forgetting. Eric Enzite was one of their top students. I mean, the list goes on and on for so many people that worked for Booker T that hit us up, and Devon. I believe Jordan Blue was trained by Rikishi. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Mhm.
So like a lot of these people are trained by all these people that got to WWE or AEW or whatever the case may be, and then branched out and got their own school, actually work with the students and then make them stars. And that's really cool to see.
I'm trying my best to describe this. And as you're talking, I was trying to figure out how I was going to ask this next question to make it make sense. But I'm trying to think of this in terms of um like the like so as far as the wrestling schools are concerned, in college football, or actually in college sports in general, in the last few years, we've seen this consolidation of teams into super conferences. And because of that, there has been a lot of, you know, upheaval from the fans and everything like that about concentrating all these teams together. And these five super conferences are just going to look for another way to separate themselves from the rest of the pack. I know that a wrestling school is only going to get so big. And I know that a wrestling school is only going to have spots for so many people. But in more of sort of a, I guess, more of a general sense or a metaphorical sense, are we, do you think we might be entering into a problem like that where a lot of the talent is trying to funnel themselves only into these schools?
Oh, I think it's definitely going to come to fruition. It's just a matter of when and where. And the reason being is because nowadays everything is just money, money, money. And I get it from both standpoints, but it's one of those things where do you want to be the big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond? It just depends on what you want.
Right. You think that's going to lead, do you think it's going to either lead to these schools growing to accommodate more students and or possibly more, which I think is going to be the case, the second option, which is that more former WWE superstars are going to start opening schools so that they can get this connection and make the money off of it?
I would say it's going to be the second option.
Yeah. So we're going to end up with, if we end up with, let's say 30 former superstars across the country running schools that are all WWE ID located in most of the states in America. If it gets that big and there's that many promotions who have opened up, they're connected to WWE, they're all over the country. Is that bad for the indie circuit? Is it bad for independent wrestling?
I would say it'd be really bad, because then you're pretty much, if you're not with that company, they're probably gonna, it's gonna be kind of like the territory days where they're gonna probably not want to deal with you, and they're probably gonna oust people. Like I never got into it, but I know that I've heard stories where promotions will not book you if you work for another promotion.
Mm-hmm.
I personally could care less, but that's me.
Right. Well, I want to get to that again another time. I'm going to have to wrap up with you here soon, Rich. I appreciate you coming on again, but I do want to get to that concept of, because I've heard that before, of not just with WWID, but like I hear scuttlebutt about promotions and you can't work for this promotion if you work for me. How common is that in the indie circuit?
It depends on where it is. I've only heard it from certain individuals that have told me that, and I'm like, then I guess you gotta make a choice. That's what I tell them. I'm like, I don't really get involved in that stuff, but like, everyone's got a right to their own thinking, I guess.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm just curious to find out I mean, it seems like so much drama almost, you know? But I guess it's more of a case by case thing too. You know, I mean, maybe some of these promotions have a real good reason for saying you can't work for promotion A or B, like safety issues or things like that, right?
It could be safety issues, it could be dates, it could be a lot of different stuff. It could be they value you as a champion and the other promotion doesn't. There could be a lot of different factors. Like, there's no right or wrong answer, just based on how that individual talent feels.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Rich, listen, it's been great having you here. I'm going to have you back probably several times if you're willing to do it.
Absolutely, I enjoy this.
Cool. Well, then I definitely want to talk to you in a few weeks again. I want to find out, actually, if nothing else, I'd like to talk to you after Redemption in January, if we don't talk before then, because I want to find out how that show went. I really wished I could get out there, but I'm not going to be able to because I want to see this 2-on-3. And honestly, now I want to see this Casey Stacy Shadows match.
The cage one or which one?
No, the one in the first one. I want to see both of them. Obviously, the cage is going to be awesome, but I'm really dying to know whether Stacy's gonna have the belt when we get to Homecoming in May or not. So I guess we'll wait and find out if that happens.
And then the one announcement we were going to make, we did break it a little early today, but we came to a deal with Trevor Lee will be coming to Destiny on
Oh,
September 27th.
well, you said that was late today. It came in
Yeah,
late today.
we broke it late today. Like, I wanted to wait till he got his deposit. So like, I was waiting for him to get back to me on it, but he is all set to go. He will be facing Hayden Backlund for Destiny.
Okay, well, now that we're here, I want to find out. I want to talk about Hayden Backlund for a second because I've heard that name. I've not seen him perform. Has he performed for you?
He has. He worked for me twice. He actually is in the Buffalo area.
Hmm.
He was trained by the Nightmare Factory and went back to Buffalo. But very good wrestler. He's a very good heel. He gets the crowd very angry. It'll be a really good match.
When you brought Hayden in for this, did you have Trevor Lee in mind the whole time? I mean, is his opponent?
NXT as a fan,
Mhm.
it's not easy to do, but I tried to watch it, and like, he was one that made me laugh. When he was doing his stuff with Ted DiBiase, it made me laugh.
Yeah, he's got charisma just oozing out of him for sure, like a lot of these guys. But I thought Trevor Lee, well, Cameron Grimes in WWE, I thought he had an upward trajectory too, and he's one of those guys that, like you talked about earlier, hit the main roster and there was just nothing happening.
Correct. It was pretty much the same thing that happened with Karrion Kross.
Yeah, yeah, and again, I don't think that's Trevor's fault at all. I think that was the WWE creative machine just not doing its best for him. I don't think.
And a lot of it's just based on there's only so many people you can push. So like, I get both sides of it, but it's one of those things where it's unfortunate for certain individuals. We'll definitely go with that.
Right, absolutely. Well, I look forward to hearing more about that match and Trevor Lee and Hayden Backlund coming up in September. I look forward to hearing more about Homecoming in May. But the next time we speak, we're definitely going to be talking a lot about Redemption and what happened and what's going to happen next. So, Rich, thank you again for coming on, and I will talk to you very soon.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Well, there you have it. Rich Buchholtz, thanks again for appearing on the show. Always very interesting. I know that Rich will be back. I look forward to having him back. But definitely, as RPW Redemption approaches in January, check out Ragin Pro Wrestling's Facebook and Instagram pages, as well as their website for information about tickets and match announcements and anything else. The Danhausen 3-on-2 handicap match is going to be outstanding, but they just keep adding to this card. And I think it's well worth the money. You should definitely check them out. If you're in the area, or even if you're not, you can get out there, definitely go check them out. And while we're on that topic, let's talk about, before we go, I want to give you an idea, a little preview of some of the things that are coming up this weekend. I mean, we're here on the Indie Wrestling Experience, and I think I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't directing you to independent wrestling in your area and letting you know there are stars and they are coming near you, and you can see them inexpensively. You can sit close in an intimate venue most of the time. It's so worth the chance. Most people underestimate it before they know it, but I certainly recommend you do. Let me talk about some shows that are coming up this week. On Thursday, January 9th, Three Legacies Wrestling is holding an event at Sunken Bus Studios in Pittsburgh featuring former WWE, former Alberto Del Rio ring announcer Ricardo Rodriguez taking on Victor Atlas. Spencer Slade is also there taking on Tarzan Duran, and Facade will go up against Pat Angel. On the same night, Wrestling Revolver will be operating out of the Calumet Center in Dayton, Ohio. Listen to this card. My goodness. Masato Tanaka will be taking on Jake Christ. Myron Reed versus Ace Austin. Top Dollar AJ Francis versus BDE. And your TNA Knockouts champion Masha Slamovich will be taking on Jessica Havoc. That's just Thursday. On Friday, January 10th in Boonesboro, Maryland, Voltage Wrestling is holding their latest event. Facade, again, will be defending the Voltage title this time against TJ Sykes. Beastman will be appearing in a match against Cooper Housley. Journey Burke will be taking on Danny Moe. And Ricardo Rodriguez is appearing at this event as well, taking on Andino. The same night, Coastal Championship Wrestling, who we just talked about for a little while earlier, they will be holding their Conquer Kissimmee event at Sun on the Beach in Kissimmee, Florida. Eddie Valentine will be taking on Danny Briggs, who is formerly known as Danny Burch in NXT. Rich Swann will be there taking on Elliot Crow. And Ariel Levy will take on WWE ID talent Gal. Got a few shows for you on Saturday. Many of them that are worth the price of admission for sure. CCW, after having a show on Friday night, will have two shows on Saturday. One, Havoc and Hayes at Magnanimous Brewing in Tampa, Florida, and also Secret Treasure at the Mid-Florida Event Center. Check out their social media, Coastal Championship Wrestling, for information about those events. And a promotion that I've reviewed that I really enjoyed being at, a very family-friendly atmosphere, is Titan Championship Wrestling. They put on such a good show, and it's for everyone, and it's just an enjoyable time. They will be holding a fundraiser at the Berkeley Little League in Bayville, New Jersey. 100% of their tickets sold and the 50-50 raffle money sold will go to benefit the Berkeley Little League. At that show, PJ Savage will defend the Titan Championship against Baba Thunder from MLW's Contra. Shane Douglas from ECW will take on SP Anderson and Jeff Noyes for the vacant Funhouse title. And Amity LeVay will take on Valentina Vasquez for the Goddesses of War title. Amity LeVay and Valentina Vasquez are two talents who I know from Bell to Bell, which we rank every single month. Both very impressive talents, both fun to watch. If you can get out to that show, I recommend you do. Speaking of women's wrestling, Divine Women's Pro Wrestling will be holding their event at Grizzlies in Wyandotte, Michigan this weekend, featuring Heather Blue taking on Storm Garcon, Pepper Pride taking on Juniper, Alice Crowley will be taking on Leela Hall, and the Juggalo women's title will be defended in a fatal four-way between Danny Moe, Rachel Armstrong, Ricky Morris, and Carter Kaufman. In Chalamet, Louisiana on Saturday, the Takeover Wrestling Alliance presents their New Year's Takeover at Paul Noel Gym. Kimber Fox will be taking on Cassandra Golden for the women's title. You should check out my YouTube page to see my interview of Cassandra Golden right after she won the Belladonna Division Championship back in 2022, January of 2022. She's a great performer. I saw her go 4 times that night, so I can tell you from experience. But that'll be a great match. Barry Wolf will take on Alex Cruz for the TWA title, and Ray Fury will take on Lucha Lacura and the Jackal. The National Wrestling Alliance is holding their Shockwave event this weekend. I don't know if the NWA is indie or not. I mean, I feel like they're kind of in between, right? Like, got a lot of talent that hasn't really made it in the big time, and then some that has, but I don't know. So I'm including them in here because there's some really cool matches that are going to be at the event this Saturday. And if you got time, maybe you're interested. Tom Latimer will headline as the NWA World Championship, defending against the former Damian Sandow, Aaron Stevens. Big Mama and Kenzie Page will take on CJ and Misty Marks. Daisy Kill and Talos will take on the Immortals. And Zion will take on another former WWE guy, Burchell. Check that out. That's happening at the OC Theater in Forney, Texas on Saturday. I believe tickets are still available. Also on Saturday, War Wrestling will be holding their event called Chapter 22, Day Number 1 at the Bradfield Community Center in Lima, Ohio, headlined by Beastman versus Matt Taylor for the War Championship. Also on that card, Brandon Fields versus Poison Apollo for the Respect title, and The Wicked will battle Gimmicks Inc. for the tag titles. Let's see. Next up, UPW will be holding their Maxed Out event at the Max Entertainment Center in Iron Mountain, Michigan. Samson will take on the Benefactor for the UPW title. Zandra Lee will take on Lulu La Reina and Sierra for the UPW women's title. Some of you may have seen Sierra on TNA a couple of times. The Society will take on Gio Bronco and BJ Allen for the tag titles. Another event with some more names that you might already know and a promotion you've heard of for sure. MLW Kings of Coliseum is also this Saturday. It takes place at the NYTEX Sports Center in Dallas, Texas. Again, MLW is one of the other ones. I mean, I don't think they're indie, but there's a lot of talent on here who are on the indies that we all know. Any of us who follow the indies, we know them. So it's always good to go out to an MLW show to see them, but they also have some big name talent on there. This particular show, headlined by Satoshi Kojima versus Matt Riddle for the MLW title. Kenta takes on Donovan Dijak, and Janai Kai versus Delmi Exo in a hair versus featherweight title match. That will be a wild one. In Waukesha, Wisconsin, also on Saturday at the Elks Lodge, number 400, Brew City Wrestling will hold Rise to Honor 21. This will feature a lot of talent that we cover at Ragin Pro Wrestling in Wisconsin. The headline of this show is War Games, essentially Guilty by Association, which includes the Spectre Jaden Mercer, Andrew Douglas, the Mouth of the Midwest JP, and Jack Sirius, taking on Nick Colucci, Kevon Lee, Hornswoggle, and BCW World Champion Salem Crane. Many of you may remember that Salem Crane and Nick Colucci were tag team partners in RPW until just recently. It'd be interesting to see them tag again at this event. There's a leather strap match for the Heritage Championship as the Apex athlete CJ Cole defends against Hosea Vatsana. A women's championship match. The White Whale of Wrestling, Aesop Mitchell, defending against Raven Radix with former AEW star Melanie Cruz as the special guest referee. There's a Riot in the Woods match as the one-man Riot Squad Gunnar Wicks takes on Yeti Henderson for the Elks Lodge 400 Championship. And finally, the Tag Team Championship will be defended in a fatal four-way. Gen Z, who we mentioned earlier, already have 2 belts. Will they add to this collection as they take on Caribbean Arrogance, Whiskey Bent and Hellbound, and the champions Evil Steppas for the Brew City Wrestling Tag Team Championships. The last event to cover for Saturday is Prestige Wrestling. This is another promotion that frequently features big stars in big matches, names that you know from TV, I guess is probably a better way to put that. Prestige is centered on the West Coast out in Oregon. They run a lot of shows at the Roseland Theater in Portland. This is no exception. This card is headlined by Alan Angels taking on Mike Santana for the Prestige title, 2 former AEW talents going head-to-head. Masato Tanaka will take on Calvin Tankman, who many of you have seen in MLW and other places. Masha Slamovich will take on Hyan. Now, again, a lot of you know the name Masha Slamovich. I don't know how many of you know the name Hyan, but I've seen a ton of her matches. But from Reality of Wrestling and elsewhere, she's just fantastic. This match is going to be, it's going to be underrated. It's going to be the unexpected surprise of the show, I think. Kevin Blackwood will take on Josh Alexander, and Timothy Thatcher will take on Adam Priest. So there is your weekend in independent wrestling for the weekend, well, let's say Thursday, January 9th through Sunday the 12th. Next week, we will be back with another episode. I will cover some more YouTube stuff. We'll talk about news and big surprise, hopefully, if I can get him on the line, we may have a co-host next week. For now, don't forget to check us out on social media. We are Indie Wrestling Experience, all one word, on Instagram and Facebook. I don't know if it's one word on Facebook, but anyway, it's Indie Wrestling Experience on Facebook. We are also Indie Wrestling XP on Blue Sky and on Twitter, X. And you can also find us the best place to find everything involving Indie Wrestling Experience is either the website. It's the IndieWrestlingExperience.com, INDY for indie, and it's all one word. There you will find our monthly wrestling rankings. See if you're a performer, see if you're on it. If you're a promotion, see how close I got to estimating the rankings of the contenders in your promotion. I also have IWTV in chronological order for those people like there who have to watch everything in chronological order like I do. Plus live reviews, promotion profiles every time I go to a new promotion to see a live event for the first time. It's all there. Check it out. And the other place would be our Linktree. Linktree Indie Wrestling Experience has links to everywhere. I'm sure I forgot a bunch of them, but check them all out. If you have questions, if you want to put your event, if you want us to highlight your event on upcoming streams, if you want to tell us about new champions you've crowned over the weekend so we can highlight them on the promotion, anything else, if you'd like to appear on the promotion as an interviewer or anything else, feel free to reach out to Indie Wrestling Experience, all one word, at gmail.com. Again, that's Indie Wrestling Experience at gmail.com. But for everybody else, check us out on socials. Tons of pictures, tons of videos, tons of cool stuff, and we're adding every day. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for checking us out, and we will see you next time.